Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I am going to be helping you find miniatures for the adventure Lost Mines of Phandelver. Today, we'll be looking at the first part, the Goblin Ambush. When I was choosing my models for my video, there were two qualifications that I had in mind. Number one, the models will all be free, so anyone will be able to download them without any cost whatsoever. And number two, all of the models will be able to be printed on an FDM printer, ideally without supports, but that might not always be the case. I chose models that could be printed on an FDM printer as I find FDM easier for beginners getting into 3D printing. If you find this video helpful or interesting, please give the video a like or consider subscribing. It would go a long way towards encouraging me to make the next part in this series. And with that said, let's get into the first models. For the first section of the Lost Mines of Phandelver, we will need a number of models. The first model that we will need is a Goblin model. We will also need some Wolf models, as well as a Bugbear, and finally, it might be nice to have a model of Sildar Hallwinter. So, let's look at the first model of Goblins. This Goblin Archer model is by Brights Mini. He is a fantastic 3D modeler who has a number of FDM-friendly miniatures, and as you can see from these images, you can download the model with a round base or a square base. I personally like the model using a round base, so that is what I will be downloading. As goblins have multiple weapons, it also might be nice to have some models that are using swords. And again, Brights Mini coming through with a model using a saber and shield. Again, we have round bases and square bases. Because I'm already going with round bases, I'll choose that one. But if you'd like to, you can use the square base model yourself. The next monster that the party is likely to encounter is a wolf, and I found this model on Thingiverse by the artist Agdemer. This is a simple wolf model. It's the perfect size for a medium-sized creature, and it is FDM friendly with a round base, so it fits in with the theme that I already have going. Next up, again, we have Brights Mini, and he has a Bugbear model wielding a mace or a warhammer. So, we'll download this one next too. Finally, a model for Sildar Hallwinter, as Sildar is wearing chainmail and has a longsword for most of the adventure. I found this model by Brights Mini. It is meant to be a generic knight, however, we can use it as a stand-in for Sildar. Once again, I will download the round base model. Okay, next I am going to load these into my slicer of choice, Prusa Slicer, and we'll slice them up for printing on an FDM printer. Okay. Here we are in Prusa Slicer. This is my slicer of choice, and you can see that I am going to be printing these on my Creality Ender 3 with a BL Touch. I am using a 0.4mm nozzle for my printing, as that is what most people will probably be using. So, first thing I go into Add, and in my downloads, I select all of the models that I will be needing, and I will add them to the build plate. Next, I'm just going to hit Arrange so that they all move into position. And looking at this wolf, it is a little bit too big. So I am going to select the wolf model, and I am going to scale it to be an appropriate size. So after a little bit of experimenting, I found that the perfect scale size to make the wolf model match the goblins and bugbear was to scale it to 77% so that it is a 1-inch base. Now, as the party is likely to be fighting multiples of these models, I will want a couple extra goblins and wolves for the first section. So I will select the Goblin Archer, copy it, and I'm going to make 2 duplicates of it. I will do the same thing for the Goblin with the Saber, make 2 duplicates, and I am also going to make 2 copies of the Wolf. Now, once again, I will just hit the Arrange button, and now I have 6 goblins, 3 wolves, 1 model for Sildar, and 1 model for my Bugbear. Now it's time to get into the settings that I will be using for printing these models. Because I'm going to be printing these and I'd like them to have some nice detail, I'm actually going to print with a 0.16 millimeter layer height. If you want to print your models with more detail, you could try printing at a 0.12 millimeter layer height or even lower. If you need to print something fast, you might want to go up to 0.2 millimeter layer heights, but I wouldn't recommend printing at anything above that, as you're likely going to be sacrificing a lot of detail in your prints. Next, I'll just hit slice. So it is saying empty layer between 29 and so let me just take a look at that. So after carefully examining the models by going through the slices, I determined that the empty layers are occurring at the topmost layer of the models, so they are unlikely to affect the actual print quality. So I'm not that worried. I will simply dismiss these. And one other thing that I'm going to be checking is the infill. I'll be using Adaptive Cubic, and I'm actually going to make sure that I'm printing with 3 parameters or 3 walls. This is because I found that miniatures have a tendency to get dropped, and with 2 walls they can be a little bit fragile. With 3 walls, I find that my miniature's arms and legs are less likely to break off if they are subjected to a little bit of abuse. Now I am going to be printing in PLA. So for my printer, for my filament, I'm going to be using a nozzle temperature of 205 for most layers, for the first layer, and 200 degrees Celsius for all other layers. Next up, I will export G-code, save, and next I will be showing you a time lapse of the prints. It should take around 6 hours and 9 minutes to print this, and it will be using 31 grams of filament. And there you go. That is all the miniatures for the creatures in the first section of Lost Mine of Phandelver. I hope this video was useful for you and entertaining. If you liked it, please give the video a like or consider subscribing. It goes a long way towards encouraging me to making the next part in the series. Thanks again, and have a great day!